On our way to a family gathering, my husband suddenly turned ashen and murmured, "Turn the vehicle around immediately." I was shocked. What? Just turn around, please. I believed him and it rescued us. When I discovered the reason, I never viewed my parents the same way again. The strategy was straightforward. Depart early, treats in the rear seat, coffee up front, travel several hours, enter Canada, embrace some relatives I hadn't seen in ages, and pretend to appreciate potato salad. It was going to be ordinary, almost tedious, which was genuinely the objective. I was behind the wheel. I always am, mainly because I despise how my husband brakes at the final possible moment, and also because car sickness is one of my numerous skills. The children were half awake in the back seat, partially watching a cartoon and partially bickering over imaginary boundaries drawn across the seat cushions. All three of them, ages 5, 7, and 10. Small mayhem in coordinated neck pillows. It was acceptable. Not enchanting, not awful, just acceptable until he spoke those words. Turn around immediately. I didn't respond initially, or I did, but not genuinely. I chuckled or grinned. One of those automatic reactions you have when you believe someone's joking, but not amusing enough to merit laughter. What? I inquired. He didn't reply immediately, just gazed directly ahead, then stated, "Please, just turn around." That's when I realized it wasn't a jest. My husband doesn't panic. His standard modes are composed, and sometimes weary. I have witnessed him handle a kitchen fire with less stress. So, I took the exit, final one before the crossing. It curved away smoothly, like the road itself was providing me another opportunity. The instant we departed the highway, his frame loosened, not completely, just enough to make it clear he'd been preparing for something. "All right," I said. "Want to explain what's happening now?" He shook his head. "Just drive." "Drive where?" "I don't know, anywhere except there." The children were beginning to realize. "Are we traveling the incorrect way?" my middle child asked. "We forgot something," I replied automatically. "What?" "I'll explain later." The youngest spoke up. "Is it treats?" I didn't respond. My husband didn't speak again for an extended time. We traveled in silence. 20 minutes, perhaps more. Just miles of trees and guilt weighing on the back of my neck. Then he said, "Take the next exit." It led to nowhere, a slim access road with no marker and no real function. One of those locations you only discover when you're lost or about to be. I pulled over. He unfastened his seatbelt. "Stay here." He stepped out and walked to the rear of the vehicle. I couldn't observe anything from where I sat, so I just remained there waiting. My palms were perspiring. My pulse was doing something strange, rapid and intense, like it understood something I didn't. After a moment, the trunk shut. He returned to my window. "Can you step out?" "Why?" "I need you to observe it." He didn't sound furious or frightened, just exhausted and very, very certain. I stepped out. He guided me to the rear of the vehicle and opened the trunk. Didn't speak, just pointed. I looked and then I forgot how to breathe. I wasn't frightened. Not yet. Terror was still approaching. What I experienced in that instant was something slower, weightier, like falling through the foundation of my own existence. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I just understood we were one incorrect decision away from losing everything. The amusing thing is I actually believed I was the dependable one in the family. Not dependable in a pays their bills and applies sunscreen manner, though yes, those too. But in the sense that I thought I could be the steady one. The one who didn't explode or disappear or deceive for entertainment. The one who attempted. The one who provided assistance when she could manage to and limits when she couldn't. But looking back now, truly examining, I can see that being the dependable one in my family was like being the designated driver at a demolition derby. They didn't desire help. They wanted protection. And I provided it to them for years. It began when I was a child. My parents were the type of people who believed that living well was a question of appearance, not wealth. Appearance. If you appear successful, if you seem charitable, if your Christmas lights were aligned and your refrigerator had 5 varieties of mustard, then that meant you were managing fine. Didn't matter if the credit cards were exhausted or if the gas got disconnected that one winter. We were managing fine. That was the narrative. Follow it or get revised. We had years when things were difficult. I remember cereal for dinner and one parent or the other suddenly working late most evenings, which I later understood was code for we don't want you to realize we can't afford things. But we also had years where they were wealthy. New vehicle, new television, new patio furniture nobody actually utilized. The money arrived and departed like weather. What never altered was the spending. I once asked my dad why we didn't save more when things were good. He said, "You don't need to save if you know how to hustle." I was 8. My sister inherited all of this. The hustle, the shine, the gravitational force of someone who can illuminate a room while quietly disconnecting your self-respect. She was the favored one. That wasn't a secret. Not even an unpleasant one. Just a reality. They preferred her more. They understood her. She was like them. I wasn't. I was dull. That's what they called me. Sometimes even to my face. Dull, rigid, too serious. My mom once told me in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner that my issue was I confused discipline for personality. And the wild part, I believed them. Because when you mature in that kind of house, you begin to think the only way to earn love is to remain useful, to remain clean, to remain rational. So that's what I did. I became the dependable one. They'd call when they needed assistance navigating insurance claims or school applications. Or when my sister lost another job and someone needed to bridge the gap, I gave what I could. Not too much. Just enough to keep things from collapsing. Just enough to not be the villain. Even when they made it painful, even when they portrayed every no as selfishness, still I gave because they were my parents, because it felt easier than the alternative. Then the dynamic changed. This was maybe 4 months before the trip. My sister's son, my nephew, was struggling in school. Bullied, they said, not fitting in, anxious, withdrawn. They'd had him evaluated, and apparently some therapist recommended a smaller environment. There was a private school they'd found, very exclusive, very expensive, and in their words, life-changing. They couldn't afford it, obviously, but they'd managed to get him conditionally accepted if they put down a deposit. They just needed help, just a little bit, just to secure it. They'd pay me back, of course. My stomach dropped the moment the words came out of their mouths. It wasn't that I didn't care. I did. That's the worst part. I like the kid. I wanted good things for him. But I also knew this pattern. I knew how it started and I knew how it ended. I said, no. I said it softly, like you'd say it to someone holding a glass knife. I can't pay for private school. I have 3 kids of my own. We don't do private school. I'm sorry. They didn't shout. They just went quiet, cold. My mom said, of course, I forgot. You have rules. And then we didn't speak for a while until the reunion came up. Suddenly, everything was cheerful again. They were delighted to see us. They'd figured things out. The school, the reunion, the drive. It was all working out. I didn't ask how. I told myself it wasn't my concern. They asked if we'd be willing to take an extra bag in our car. Their car was too full and we had the SUV. Sure, I said. Just let me know. That was a few days before the trip. Then the morning we were leaving, as we were packing up, my dad handed me the red duffel. Won't fit in ours, he said. Just this one. I took it without thinking, just tossed it in with our luggage and the kids' backpacks and a cooler full of juice boxes. Didn't even unzip it. Didn't wonder why they were so relaxed all of a sudden. Didn't stop to ask why the people who were struggling to pay for school, groceries, gas, and who guilt-tripped me for not helping were suddenly fine. They smiled as we backed out of the driveway, waved like they didn't have a care in the world. And I remember thinking just for a second, odd. They seemed really happy for once. I didn't think much of it at the time. Just another bag. Just another trip. Just another family mess I didn't want to get dragged into. Maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I was too naive. He didn't sound furious or frightened, just exhausted and very, very certain. I need you to observe it, he said. I stepped out. He led me to the rear of the vehicle and opened the trunk. Didn't speak. Just unzipped the red duffel and folded back a sweatshirt. And that's when everything stopped. Inside, wedged in between clothes, stuffed into what looked like a child's toiletry bag, sealed in plastic, were packets. Not one. Not hidden especially well. Just there under layers that wouldn't have fooled anyone doing their job for more than 5 seconds. I stared, not fully comprehending, then fully comprehending all at once. Not medicine, not vitamins, not anything with a purpose that didn't include handcuffs, lawyers, or headlines. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Every muscle in my chest locked. It felt like drowning in slow motion. He didn't say, "Look what they did." He didn't say, "This is what I thought." He just zipped the bag closed again and let the silence finish the sentence. I took a step back. The gravel crunched under my shoes like it was somewhere else, like it wasn't connected to anything real. "They put that in our car," I finally said. My voice was thin. "They put that in our car," he nodded. "With the kids," I added. Another nod. I looked up at the sky for some reason. It was still blue. It still looked like a good day. I hated that. It felt wrong, like the sky hadn't gotten the memo. "How did you know?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Just stared at the closed trunk like it might still be open underneath. "When they gave us the bag," he said eventually. Something in their eyes, the way they smiled, like it was already done, like they were sure it would work. He shrugged, then shook his head, like he was trying to knock the memory out. I couldn't stop thinking about it the whole drive. Then just before the border, it hit me. He looked at me. I didn't know, but I knew. And that was more troubling somehow. That someone else had witnessed it. What I had conditioned myself not to observe. I turned around and walked slowly back to the driver's seat, got in, shut the door, sat there for a moment, allowing the warmth to penetrate through the windshield while my hand trembled. Then I started the vehicle, and drove. The children didn't inquire this time. They were absorbed in some cartoon. They'd forgotten about Canada, about Aunt Karen and the cousins, and the small gift bags I'd secretly prepared for the reunion. We traveled for a while, highway, back roads, without direction. My phone began buzzing. First it was my mom, then my dad, then again, then again. I didn't respond. Neither did he. We didn't need to. We already understood what they'd say. "Where are you? What occurred? Are you all right? Where's the bag?" We didn't respond. Just continued driving, the screen illuminating every few minutes like a tiny alarm. Eventually, we turned toward their house. It was almost instinctive, like we were on tracks. We didn't discuss it. We both just understood what had to occur. I pulled into their driveway and parked. The front porch light was still on from the previous night, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. He stepped out first, walked around to the trunk. I followed. We didn't speak. I reached for the mat, found the key, still in the same location it had always been, taped to the back of a fake stone my dad purchased from a catalog that also sold deer whistles and solar-powered frogs. He opened the front door. We walked inside. The air smelled like stale coffee and carpet cleaner. We placed the red duffel just inside the hallway. Didn't open it. Didn't adjust it. Just set it down like a silent bomb that didn't need to explode to destroy everything. He turned the handle, locked it behind us. We got back in the vehicle, still no words. I think we both felt like speaking would contaminate something. Later that day, after we returned home and the children were asleep and the house was quiet, I answered the phone. It was my mother. Her voice was cheerful, artificial, like this was a call about cookies. Oh, honey, we were so concerned. We didn't understand what happened. You just vanished. I didn't say anything. Is everything all right? Still nothing. Where's the bag? I let that linger for a moment. Then I said, we dropped it off at your house. A pause. If it was that significant, I added, maybe you should have carried it yourself. Her voice didn't alter, but I heard it. The hesitation, that flicker of awareness that told me she knew precisely what I meant and that I knew exactly what she'd done. She didn't speak. Neither did I. And then I said, we're not doing this. Don't call again. I hung up. That was it. No yelling, no final lecture, just a boundary drawn and a door closed. And that should have been the conclusion, but it wasn't. Not yet. They appeared on a Wednesday. No warning, no message, just the doorbell ringing like they were delivering cookies instead of guilt. I knew it was them before I even looked. There's a type of tension that comes through a front door, like a foul odor or electricity in the air, especially when it's people who believe they've done nothing wrong. I opened the door just enough to step outside and shut it firmly behind me. My parents were standing there like they hadn't just tried to destroy my life with a smile in a duffel bag. My mom gave me a tight, rehearsed smile. The kind that's supposed to appear warm but doesn't reach the eyes. We wanted to check in, she said like we were in a group chat and I'd just missed a brunch invitation. My dad added, we thought maybe we could clear the air. I said nothing. Just crossed my arms and waited. My mom hesitated, then said, we didn't know how much you comprehended. There it was, the reveal. They knew. I knew. They just didn't know how much I'd let myself believe. I tilted my head. You mean the bag? Neither of them replied, which was reply enough. You put it in our trunk, I said, with your grandchildren in the back seat. My mom swallowed. We didn't think it would be a big deal. It wasn't going to be anything, my dad said, trying to keep his voice steady. Just something to help with the debt, that's all. We were desperate, my mom added. You wouldn't help. There it was again. The backup excuse, the one-size-fits-all defense. You wouldn't help. Like this was just a reaction to my lack of generosity. Like their betrayal was a natural result of my boundaries. I didn't shout. I didn't weep. You didn't just betray me, I said. You endangered our lives. Neither of them spoke. You endangered your daughter, your son-in-law, your grandchildren. My dad shifted his weight. My mom blinked like she was attempting to cry, but couldn't quite summon the tears. We're finished, I said. Don't call. Don't come here. You don't get to see the kids. This is over. She opened her mouth. I could already hear it forming. The classic, you're being overdramatic, or maybe you'll cool off. Instead, she just said, you'll come around. You always do. I turned, walked back inside, and locked the door behind me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder if she was correct. 3 days later, I showed up at the school to pick up the children. They weren't there. My stomach plummeted so fast, I couldn't speak. I just looked at the teacher like she'd told me my house was burning. Oh, they were already collected, she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Your parents said you'd ask them to. I don't remember driving. I remember being in the vehicle, and I remember the sound of the engine, but I don't remember anything in between. They were at my parents' house. Of course they were. Inside, it looked like a birthday celebration had exploded. Toys, candy, balloons, a whole Lego set that cost more than my grocery budget for the week. The children were glowing from sugar highs, clutching new items, and laughing like this was Disneyland. My parents were acting like this was all normal. My mom was cutting cake. My dad was on the floor constructing something that beeped. It was surreal, like walking into a parallel universe where they were the type of grandparents who cared more about giving than taking. Only they weren't. And this wasn't love. This was strategy, emotional bribery, weaponized affection. They'd never spoiled the children before. Not like this. Not ever. But suddenly, after we cut them off, suddenly there's Santa Claus with a debit card. I stood there for a moment trying to remember what it felt like to give someone the benefit of the doubt. I couldn't. We're leaving, I said. The children whined. But why? Grandma said. We're leaving now. They didn't comprehend. Of course they didn't. How could they? They were being told yes by people who'd spent their lives saying no. And they enjoyed it. It was easy to enjoy. Can we keep the toys? One of them asked, clutching a stuffed bear like it held answers. I hesitated just for a moment. Then I said yes because taking the toys away would make me the villain. And I wasn't giving my parents that victory. As we headed out, my mom called after me, sing-song and soft. They'll come back to us. They always do. She said it like it was a fact. She said it like a promise. She said it like she still believed she could win. That night, I didn't wait for some magical sign or emotional breakdown. I just sat down on the bed, looked at my husband and said, "We have to leave." He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. I don't want them near the children, not at school, not at the grocery store, not down the block pretending to be harmless. He nodded slowly like he'd already been halfway to the same conclusion. You mentioned North Carolina before, I said. Your company has an office there. Your parents live there. I wasn't ready then. I am now. He nodded again. The transfer is still available. Good. I said. Let's take it. No drama, no hesitation. Just the quiet decision to burn the bridge and never look back. I didn't need revenge. I needed distance and a clean start somewhere they couldn't reach us. Fast forward a few months later, we were in North Carolina. The mountains were gorgeous. The air smelled like pine and fresh beginnings. The children were in new schools. His parents, warm, grounded, drama-free, lived 20 minutes away and actually wanted to help. We didn't tell anyone where we went. We blocked numbers, vanished, and not in the dramatic storming off to find yourself kind of way. In the we deserve peace kind of way. One day, my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. A cousin, one I barely spoke to. Hey, your mom says she doesn't know where you are. She's really upset. Said, you just cut off contact. I don't know what's happening, but family matters. I deleted the message, didn't call back, didn't explain. Because by then, the only thing I cared about was this. We were safe. We were free. We didn't disappear. We escaped. It was about 6 months later. New state, new school, new routines. I'd almost gotten used to not checking my phone with dread. The quiet wasn't comfortable yet, but it was no longer terrifying, just still. And then I got an email from my sister. Subject line, emergency, please read. I stared at it for a while. I thought about deleting it unread. I thought about marking it as spam. Instead, I opened it. It was long, frantic, poorly punctuated. The gist. Our parents had been arrested again. This time, not for being foolish, though that was still part of it, but for actually doing the thing they almost let us get arrested for. They tried to smuggle something across the border themselves. No middlemen, no family scapegoats. Just a trunk full of product and 2 people in their 60s who still thought rules were suggestions. They were caught, obviously. The email ended with a plea. They need help. They need money for a lawyer. This is serious. You have to put the past aside and show up. Your family. I read that line 3 times. Then I hit reply. All I wrote was, and I did show up once. I'm not doing it again. And I meant it. I didn't hear anything else for a while. I didn't need to. But eventually, word found its way back to me, as it always does. Cousins talk. Family trees have rot, but the roots are deep. They were charged with possession with intent to distribute and attempting to cross an international border with controlled substances. A few pounds, enough for intent, not enough for headlines. They took a plea deal, 4 years each. Not life-changing, but not nothing either. Enough time to sit with what they'd done, if they were capable of that, which honestly I doubt. The part of me that used to flinch when people mention second chances is quiet now. We have a life here. It's not perfect, but it's ours. The children laugh more. My husband sleeps better. And I haven't had to translate guilt into silence in a very long time. And as for the rest of it, I don't regret the boundary. Not for a moment. But you tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, hit subscribe.